Continuing in inner stillness, let's listen to this beautiful homage that Paramhans Yogananda pays to his Guru through this poem, My Guru, from the book Whispers from Eternity. Thou light of my life, thou camest to spread wisdom's glow over the path of my soul. Centuries of darkness dissolved before the shafts of thy luminous help. As a naughty baby, I cried for my mother divine, and she came to me as my Guru, Swami Shri Yukteshwar. At that meeting, O my Guru, a spark flew from thee, and the faggots of my God craving, gathered through incarnations, smoldered and blazed into bliss. All my questions have been answered with thy flaming golden touch. Eternal, ever-present satisfaction has come to me through thy glory. My Guru, thou voice of God, I found thee in response to my soul cries. Slumbers of sorrow are gone, and I am awake in bliss. If all the gods are displeased, yet thou art pleased. I am safe in the fortress of thy pleasure. And if all the gods protect me behind the parapets of their blessings, yet I receive not thy benedictions. I am an orphan left to pine spiritually in the ruins of thy displeasure. O Guru, thou didst bring me out of the bottomless pit of darkness into the paradise of peace. Our souls met after years of waiting. They trembled with an omnipresent thrill. We met here because we had met before. Together we will fly to his shores, where we will smash our planes of finitude forever and vanish into infinite life. I bow to thee as the spoken voice of silent God. I bow to thee as the divine door which leads to the temple of salvation. I bow to thee, to thy master, Lahiri Mahashaya, harbinger of yoga in Benares, and I lay the flowers of my devotion at the feet of Babaji, our Supreme Master. Let's take a few moments to feel the vibration of deep devotion, of divine love and gratitude from the disciple to the Guru. Rubbing our palms together, let us send out the blessings of this devotion to all seeking souls. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Welcome once again, friends, and a happy birthday to all of us. Now it's interesting what happened. I was supposed to give a satsang on Shri Yukteshwarji's Mahasamadhi, and which I didn't feel prepared for, so I said, at the last minute I said, no, I don't think I'll do this satsang. I'll do the next one. So I said, okay, because the karma is not complete, you see. I said, I'll do the birthday satsang. So this time I was prepared. I made all my notes for the last 2 weeks. I've been, looking at different books, and, I'd got all the points together, leaving, for the last 2 days so I can review the notes. So yesterday I didn't find time. The day was full. Today morning I thought I'll take a look at the notes, and I was doing, so it was on my phone. So I was doing something at my phone, and it just disappeared. Everything, all the notes I had made, everything just disappeared. I looked everywhere, it wasn't there. So I take it as a divine will of some kind that it was meant to be. But it's also in our hearts. The descent of a master symbolizes God's love for man, and it also seeks to furnish mankind with possibilities of the divinity that rests within. We need these reminders again and again because we forget. And so in the birth of a great master, in fact, when a great master is born, it is not only that his family is benefited, the whole world is uplifted by their coming. And through their life, through the duration of their life, with their passing and even beyond, their vibrations continue to hold the world in a spirit of divine joy that those who tune into can feel, but many don't. But that is the journey we must make. They give that glimpse, that sun shines, and the beautiful light of that shining sun, and that aspiration, that seed of aspiration is in our bosom. And it's just waiting for the right time in the divine will to flower, to blossom, and to find expression. But for us to find that doorway to freedom requires the help, the strength, the wisdom of a divine guru, of a Sadguru. Yukteshwarji, all of these masters in our line of Kriya Yoga masters, all of them open for us that door to realization. Yukteshwarji, most of us have the very strong perception of Yukteshwarji as a very stern master, censorious, dismissive of nuances of behavior that are not pleasing to the soul. And Yogananda ji many times writes in the autobiography how he shook under the weight of Yukteshwarji's disciplinary hammer. But he was very grateful. He was very grateful that the masters take on the task of this titanic transformation. I'm using certain words from the book that are beautiful. And they are so, in visual imagery, they are so powerful and perfect that the very, sound of those words and the visualization of the vibration behind them gives us an inkling of what it meant. It's more difficult for the guru than for the disciple. Because the guru's free will in changing the disciple is tied to the disciple's free will. So we think, it's hard for the disciple to find its way to find their way to freedom, but it's not easy for the guru too. The guru comes with a longing to give, to share the love of God with all his children, but very few want it. And the ways of the masters are different. The ray of blessings they bring is unique. And in Shri Yukteshwarji, as he himself admitted, that he had a stern approach. And he was very blunt about it. He said, you can stay if you feel benefited. Otherwise, you can leave. He didn't care about a following. He didn't care about, name or fame. His interest was the spiritual education of those who came to him for self-realization. And in that, we have a great story. In Yogananda ji, the heights of that titanic transformation was accomplished. In 1926, he writes to Paramahansa Yogananda in America, "Child of my heart, Yogananda." What a beautiful expression. I mean, who would think of a stern person like Shri Yukteshwarji, using the such flowery expressions, child of my heart, Yogananda, a true parent. A true parent who does not worry about what the child will think if he uses certain ways of discipline, but he does his job of wanting to show the way to the disciple. I want to share a few stories from the book from which we can take lessons. Shri Yukteshwarji was not one for flamboyance. He never flaunted his divine powers. People didn't. In fact, Yoganandaji describes his presence as unspectacular. He said, unspectacular in guise. Many of his contemporaries did not even know that a man of God was in their midst. He secretly operated the laws of creation at will. And people who were not wise thought that was the natural flow of circumstances, not knowing that a divine will was playing through the flow of events. And we will see some very beautiful lessons that Yoganandaji reveals through the stories that he shares of Yukteshwarji. One is about the mosquito consciousness that some of us are aware about. Shri Yukteshwarji was used at his parental home. He was used to a mosquito net. But when he came to Serampur, he saw that Shri Yukteshwarji did not use a mosquito net. Now what do you do? For a few days he was bitten by mosquitoes, and then one day Yukteshwarji told him, why don't you get a mosquito net? Buy one for yourself and buy one for me too. Yoganandaji happy, got 2 nets, and he would wait for his guru to tell him to put the nets on at bedtime. Without his guru's order, command, he wouldn't do it. One day there was, he said, the attack of mosquitoes, and the numbers were too many, and he was waiting for his guru to give the word, but it never came. So he begins to, he was, hitting those mosquitoes, they were biting him, and he said a prayer in their direction, but nothing worked. Shri Yukteshwarji was in yogic trance. So he went to wake up his guru, and he realized he's not breathing, his body is cold. Now he was new in Master's hermitage, so this was new to him, samadhi, and how it looked. So he brings a mirror, puts it under his nose, there is no vapor. He's almost running out of the door to call the doctor. and he closes his nostrils, his mouth to see if he's really, will he come back to life? Nothing happens, so he runs to the door for the doctor. And then Shri Yukteshwarji, oh my poor nose. And he says, is the world going to change for you? Get rid of your mosquito consciousness. And what a wonderful lesson that whatever consciousness that bedevils us into delusion, into lack of awareness, whether it is a consciousness of laziness, whether it is a consciousness of doubt, whether it is a consciousness of fear, whether it is a consciousness of jealousy, whatever, Yukteswarji was demonstrating to his disciple that don't wait for the world to arrange perfect circumstances for your happiness, but change yourself. Whatever we experience as darkness within us, and the cause for which we are eager to blame things outside of us, he was reminding us it lies not out there, it's within you. Because regardless of the mosquito net, no mosquitoes trouble Shri Yukteswarji. And Yoganandaji said that was a powerful lesson for him. He said, that's the yogic state I want to attain. And he never forgot that. How you can escape, in Yoganandaji's words, into an inner invulnerability of spirit. There we can win our battles. Otherwise we are always wounded. Until we know how in deep meditation you can withdraw the energy from your senses and rest in the light of spirit, until then, the dualities of this world will continue to trouble us. Another story I want to share is the story of him, of the group visiting Kashmir. Before they actually visited Kashmir, they had tried 3 times. They had planned 3 times to go to Kashmir. One day, Yogananda ji comes to his parent for tickets. And he tells his father, please give me 6 tickets. We want to go to Kashmir with my guru. And his father laughs. He said, haven't you told this story to me before? Twice already. No, Master was a very enthusiastic, energetic person, He said, no, this time we are going. So his dad gave him the ticket and gave him some money. And he approaches Shri Yukteshwarji. Now his friends already bring him word. Now he knows Shri Yukteshwarji at the last minute is non-committal. He does not say yes to the visit. So his friend already brings him word. Shri Yukteshwarji is not saying yes yet. He says, we will see, not yet. Now this time, Yogananda ji was determined not to lose his word to his father. So he continues. So he knows Yukteshwarji's disciple and his friend is not going to accompany him if Yukteshwarji doesn't come. So he approaches another friend. And as he is going to the house of that friend, he sees Yukteshwarji coming from the opposite direction, unsmiling. And Yukteshwarji asks him, where are you going? And he says, I'm going to this person's house. He was happy to come to Kashmir even without pay. He wanted somebody who would look after the luggage. He will surely come to Kashmir. Yukteshwarji quite calmly tells him, don't waste your time in that direction. I don't think he will be interested. Master nevertheless decided to go to visit this servant. And so as it happens, the servant escapes through the back door. And Yogananda ji is waiting there for half an hour, waiting for his yes. And he realizes, no, there's something at work here, but he doesn't really know what it is. So he decides to go to his uncle's house and take the help of their servant. Again, on the way to his uncle's house, he meets Shri Yukteshwarji. Shri Yukteshwarji again tells him, I don't think you will enjoy the visit to your uncle's house. Well, Yogananda ji decides to nevertheless proceed with his adventure. He arrives at his uncle's place. And his uncle was very kind. He said, I'm planning to visit Kashmir, and I thought, I could take the help of your servant. Will you allow us the use of your servant? Now, just before this, the uncle had very happily said, you're visiting Kashmir? Let me know how I can help you. So Master was very encouraged when he asked his uncle for the help of his servant. So the moment he asked for the help of his servant, he said, it was like an earthquake. His uncle just jumped out of his chair. His notes went flying in all directions. His pipe that used to smoke fell to the floor in a great rattle. He didn't know what happened. And he quickly fled from his uncle's place. And he realized that something through his guru's will was in operation, but he didn't know what. Anyway, he goes back to his guru. His guru gently asks him, won't you spend a little time with me, Mukunda? Mukunda was his childhood name. And why don't you wait a while here? Let your friends go ahead to the station. And there's still time for the train. So gentle and so sweet. And by now, Yogananda ji's mind is beginning to, change. And he feels, why am I going to Kashmir without my guru? And he decides to stay for some time. And even as he is being served food at the hermitage, he has an attack of the dreaded Asiatic cholera, for which at that time there was no cure. And he just completely collapses at his guru's feet. And his guru and his fellow disciple, the guru lovingly, it is said, as you read, it is so beautiful, lovingly takes his head in his lap, gently stroking his forehead. Master writes with angelic tenderness. The guru is appropriate. His stern censure doesn't mean that there is no love. It's just an outer garb for inner accomplishments of higher disciplines. And of course, Yukteshwarji heals him. But he says, you see, I had to look after you in this strange way because you would not listen to my will for you. And there is a very important lesson for us there. How often we thwart the Guru's will because we are so attached to a desire that we have, whatever the desire be in this world, without, and especially when we open our hearts to God's grace, when we are sincere in our quest for self-realization, God takes an interest, a sincere interest, completely proportionate to your interest in Him. And He begins every time we stray from harmony, every time we stray from God's will. He puts forth a series of events in motion that brings you back. It confuses us because we don't realize what's happening. But what is the Guru doing? The Guru is trying to again and again bring your alignment back in harmony with natural laws. Yogananda ji writes about Shri Yukteshwarji, his marvelous aura was one of simplicity. What is simplicity? Simplicity can have many outward forms, but the true understanding of simplicity is that which is founded in our harmony with natural laws. When we are in harmony, when we adhere to and what do I mean by natural laws? Spiritual laws. When we adhere to natural spiritual laws, when we attain that self-integration, that harmony with our innermost divine essence, the natural fruit of it is a simplicity of consciousness that can wear many outer garbs. But when our consciousness is not rooted in God, an outward expression that does not conform to our limited perception of it gives rise to criticism, gives rise to judgment, gives rise to dislike, anger, hatred, and so on and so forth. But the Master's life, as Yogananda ji writes, chiseled for the ages, that cannot be contradicted on the divine plane, but can be on the material plane. Many people would criticize Shri Yukteshwarji. Many masters see criticism on this plane during their life. But on the divine plane, they are infallible. And only those that are able to put themselves in tune with their consciousness are able to perceive it. And the life of the masters are that soul call. That soul that has already called God, we have forgotten. Every time we come, every new day, we wake up, we forget. We made a prayer to God, we have forgotten. The Guru has come, we have forgotten why he is here. He comes through a certain form, we don't recognize the form. Forgetfulness is a very detrimental disease. And the Guru comes to heal us of this disease of forgetfulness, of reminding us again and again. He said, Yukteshwarji says, wisdom is the greatest cleanser. Cleansing of what? Cleansing of delusion. The delusion that I am the doer, that this body is the final frontier, that there is no other reality except what manifests as these material forms. And what is the wisdom that he's talking about? As we make our journey, we experience wisdom at many levels, through our experiences. Neti Neti, the practice of Gyan Yoga. But even that is not true and complete wisdom. True understanding, true wisdom is intuition. And Yogananda ji writes, intuition is necessary to discipleship. Because without intuition, you cannot know the Guru's will. You cannot attune yourself to the Guru's will. True understanding is that which is born of intuition. And that intuition is revealed in deep meditation. And through the practice of deep meditation, we clothe ourselves with that aura of stillness, calmness, when it becomes part of our being. As Yukteshwarji again says, wisdom is not about increased learning. If your conviction of a truth is not rooted in the atoms of your being, it is not truth enough for you. That our experience must be rooted in the wisdom of inner realization. There's a story Yogananda ji writes of how a celebrated Pandit came to Shri Yukteshwarji and he started talking about the scriptures from the quoting verses from the Mahabharata, the Gita, the verses of Adi Shankaracharya. And after a long few minutes of the Pandit going on so, Yukteshwarji very calmly says, I'm waiting to hear you. And the Pandit is stunned. He had spoken so much. And then Yukteshwarji, seeing his confusion, elaborates. He says, what truth, I'm paraphrasing, what truth have you made your own? How have these timeless truths renovated your own nature? Speak from your original experience of these scriptures. And this is very important. As he says, don't confuse understanding with a larger vocabulary. What does that mean? Just reading 100 books, it gives you a lot of knowledge, a lot of vocabulary, but that is not understanding if you have not assimilated it in the very atoms of your being. So likewise, friends, Yogananda ji has given us many teachings, techniques. What have we made our own? Many of us practice very little. We are happy to practice at least 1%. Master said 1%. And we are happy to bring down our practice to that 1%. What have we made our own of these practices? The principle of observation in Hong So, the principle of listening in Om, the principle of controlling the flow of energy at will in your own body. What to speak of us wanting to control others and the world? Can we even control the flow of energy in our body? What have you made your own? Have you developed a personal relationship with these techniques? Have you developed a personal understanding of what it means to practice right attitudes? When we begin to practice, we realize that through the practice we actually enter into a great adventure. That is, if we can see with non-attachment, is quite hilarious. Because every time we try and we fall flat on our face, and every time the Master lifts us up and says, try again, and you keep doing this. We keep doing it through incarnations, we keep doing it many times. And it is fun. It is a lot of fun, but it is only through practice, individual practice, that you are brought to the door of the next layer in realization. Somebody saying it will not be enough. And that is why Master said, you must take it into the laboratory of your consciousness and experiment it with these teachings in your consciousness. And that's the peeling of the onion. And that's the peeling of the layers. You practice, you enter into another level of depth. You continue your practice and you realize another new vista is before you. How do you now scale this cliff? Until you get to the heart of the practice. And the heart of that practice is, as Yukteshwarji says, we love complexity, but he says God is simple. He loves that God is love, God is that, this. He says, nay, God. You come to the heart of your practice and you discover God. And that's what you discover in the Master's life. That if you follow even one instruction that a Master gives, the heart of it is God. And if we can offer our unconditional love and our unconditional obedience, we will discover God in that practice. There are many beautiful stories and sayings of Yukteshwarji. And I would invite everybody to read that chapter Years in My Master's Hermitage. Every line is worth reflection. And that is how Yukteshwarji would encourage study of the scriptures. They would read one line, they would meditate half an hour. He would give a commentary, short commentary, then again they would meditate for half an hour. And that is how, because study of the scriptures is not passive reading. It's again, how can you make it your own? How can you make it a living presence within you? And that is the path of yoga. Today we were having a class on discipleship, and people forget very quickly, they finished, this was step 3, level 1, level 2. And I asked them, which is the first sutra in Patanjali's? Because it takes willpower. It takes willpower to be on the path of yoga. So before you come to the path of yoga, you already have to be convinced about something. And everybody had forgotten. And that is Shankhya. That until you're convinced that my outer dependence on anything is all zero, will not bear me anything, until you're convinced of the futility of that dependence, we will not look elsewhere. We will continue to place all our hopes, continue looking for promises in one dependency after another. And that is why he says wisdom is the greatest cleanser. Because one of the ways that we are brought to wisdom, there are 2 ways we are brought to wisdom. One is intense suffering. Intense suffering also heightens our awareness. That brings us to meditation. And of course, in meditation, the deepest awareness opens the wisdom of the divine to our consciousness. So wisdom is not just an outward practice. The true practice of wisdom is again, as Yukteshwarji is very simple. Once you find your guru, listen to the guru. You don't have to worry about the details of your life. Just worry about one thing. Just focus on one thing. And there's just one question we need to ask. What is the Guru's will? Nothing else is important. What is right, what is wrong? There can be many debates about what's right and what's wrong, because truth is very relative. Each one sees through the window of their filters of samskars and tendencies. But one question, what is the Guru's will open the doors to better understanding. And that is why the Gurus come again and again. And it's the greatest gift we have, friends. It's the greatest blessing we have in our life. If we can wake up every morning and thank God for that one blessing that we have, which completes our quest for every other blessing, if we can recognize and make that a conviction of our being, that I have the greatest blessing of all in my Guru, we are on the path to freedom. So remember every morning to be able to say, Guruji, your will, not my will. Not easy. Practice it. You'll say something, inwardly resists. I remember trying to practice this in the early days of joining the path. And I would read about how Swamiji would talk about, Lord, your will, not my will. And so one day I was praying, I really wanted a particular outcome. And I kept praying. I wanted to pray, Lord, your will. So I prayed, Lord, your will. But it didn't have the consent of my whole being. So inwardly I was like, still. As Yogananda ji writes, he said, in time I demolished all rationalizations and subconscious resistance to his Guru's chastisement. In those initial years, he had a resentment whenever Yukteshwarji would scold him. But in time, he let go of it and he began to accept. And he said the moment he began to accept, his guru's chastisement also ceased. He says, Master melted into comparative clemency. There's a universal impulse also in operation here, because the guru is an open channel for the divine. In Yogananda ji opening himself to his guru, he was placing himself in divine harmony. And that was part of Shri Yukteshwarji's consciousness, divine harmony. There was no need for scolding. There was no need for chastisement, which in time Yogananda ji described as angels of protection. Each of those chastisements, that's the work of a true parent. They don't worry about whether their children are pleased or not. But those chastisements, when the child looks back at those early years, they are very grateful. Thank you for holding that discipline over me. Those are my angels of protection today. I want to close with a reading about Yukteshwarji that Master writes. Quiet evening hours often brought one of my Guru's discourses, Treasures Against Time. His every utterance was measured and chiseled by wisdom. A sublime self-assurance marked his mode of expression. It was unique. He spoke as none other in my experience ever spoke. His thoughts were weighed in a delicate balance of discrimination before he permitted them an outward garb. The essence of truth, all pervasive, with even a physiological aspect, came from him like a fragrant exudation of the soul. I was conscious always that I was in the presence of a living manifestation of God. The weight of his divinity automatically bowed my head before him. Om Shanti Shanti.